Hey, Darlene.
Yeah.
I was just got a message that we're not live streaming. I don't know if that doesn't start until 6:30 or I just want to
Usually, yeah, it usually starts right at 6:30.
Okay.
But I can just say it. Thank you for saying it out loud so that IT can check on that. Okay, it is 6:30 and it looks like we have a quorum for the meeting. So I'm going to call the meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
NH Theronot.
Here.
Williams.
Here.
Wolkin. Wolkin. Carter.
Here.
Cowart.
Present.
Esri.
Here.
Furtado. Furtado. Goss.
Present.
Harper.
Here.
King.
Here.
Lockshin.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Michaels.
Present.
Pasalacqua. Pasalacqua. Paul. Paul.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Storr.
Present.
Straub.
Here.
Summers. Summers.
We can't hear you, Steve.
Taylor.
Here.
Thorsland. Thorsland. Patterson.
Here.
Okay, thank you. There's a quorum present and the meeting will proceed. This meeting is being conducted remotely. Reminder that all votes need to be taken by roll call, and please use the raise hand icon when you wish to be recognized by the chair. For the record, it is noted that the county executive is physically present at the regular meeting location at the Brookings Administrative Center. And I have a pretty short and to the point prayer tonight. Oh Lord, you know how busy I must be today. If I forget you, please do not forget about me. Amen. And next will be the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'd like to join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would the clerk read the notice of the meeting, please?
Notice is hereby given that a regular meeting of the County Board, Champaign County, Illinois, will convene on February 24th, 2022, 6:30 p.m. via Zoom in the Brookings Administrative Center, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, Illinois, in said county for the purpose of allowing and ordering payments of claims against the county, receiving and acting upon reports of committees, and such other matters as may be brought before said meeting, which said meeting shall continue in session from day to day until the completion of said business.
Okay, thank you. And it looks like Ms. Furtado and Ms. Wolken have joined the meeting. I'm not seeing still Brad or Eric. Okay, moving on. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda, please? I'm sorry, Wayne, did you want to say something first?
Yeah, just a reminder about the YouTube stream. It doesn't seem like it's streaming.
Okay, would the IT people please check and make sure that we're streaming on YouTube? Jenny, do you have something to say?
No, I was just raising my hand to move to approve the agenda.
Okay, thank you for the motion. Can I get a second for moving the agenda? Mr. Esri?
I'll second the agenda as presented.
Okay, any other discussion or changes? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll?
Stern,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wolken,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalacqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yeah. Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers, Taylor,
Yes.
Dorsland, Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That motion carries. We have an agenda. Next is the date and time of our regular meetings. I wanted to just note to the board that we're probably going back to in-person meetings in March. I think the mask mandates are going to be lifted for the state, and it's probably time to start going back to in-person meetings. There's the standing committees, county facilities, environment and land use, and highway at their regular times. Committee of the whole will be at its regular time. And then the county board meeting, I wanted just to also note to the board that we are planning to do the dedication of the Shields Carter Room, which we have not been able to do because we haven't really been meeting in person. So we're planning on do that in the March meeting. And then also in previous years, we've also allowed or asked the county board members who did not have a professional headshot to be posted on our website to get pictures taken for the board. And so we will have a photographer here for that. Anybody who is wanting a headshot, and I think there's about 10 of you who have not had a professional headshot taken for the board yet. So if you were here in previous terms, you've got one already, that's fine, but there's several of you that are new, and we try to do that for the board members each term, and we weren't able to do that in November either. So we plan to get that done also at the March meeting. So just to let you know, there'll be more announcements about that, but just to give you a heads up. Next is public participation. Is there any public participation tonight? I see some attendees have their hand raised. Mr. Bambanek.
Okay. John Bambanek, Muhammad, Illinois. A few hours ago, the Edgar County Watchdogs wrote a story about the Board of Review using their county credit card to eat meals at Biaggi's. My question is, why are we hearing about this from a couple of activists in Edgar County, a couple of counties away? I seem to recall that we have an auditor that prides himself on being a CPA, the first CPA to hold the office of county auditor in Champaign. I don't know in history, but at least in recent history. I also recall that his predecessor, John Farney, instituted a policy that government county employees aren't to be eating out on the county dime while they're in town. The Board of Review is in town. They just decided to sit there and have a meal. I'm wondering where George Danos is about all of this, because I recall an op-ed he wrote a couple of months ago, talking about corruption and conflict of interest, about some other government entity he had nothing to do with, thumping his chest about how he's a watchdog for the county, yet isn't minding any single expenditure about people misusing county credit cards, which has been a problem in this county for some time. And I believe the previous county assessor got into some trouble with this. He certainly has no problem criticizing other elected officials, right? There was Wayne Williams he criticized in his op-ed. The last time he was in an op-ed, he criticized another African-American. I'm sure that's got nothing to do with race, but I've always thought George was more of a Democrat in the mold of George Wallace anyway. I just want to know what's going on and who's watching expenditures, because we got a CPA that's apparently sleeping on the job. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other members of the public that wish to speak? If so, raise your hand, please. Since I can't see your pictures, you'll have to push your raise hand button. Okay, I'm not seeing any. So we're going to close public participation tonight. And now moving to the consent agenda. Can the executive get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Ms. Taylor?
So moved.
Thank you. Ms. Van Each Thernot?
Second.
Second, thank you. Would the clerk call the roll for the consent agenda?
Anish Theranos,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Wolkin,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lockshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pastelacqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Draug,
Yes.
Summers, Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland, Patterson,
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next is communications. Is there any communications from members of the board regarding business for the board? Mr. McGuire.
Thank you. I would just think that we'd want to hold the country of Ukraine in our prayers and thoughts, and this country, as Russia is obviously attacking the country. Thank you.
Any other communication from the board? Mr. Goss?
Yes, thank you. I think this is the best place for this. We don't have another spot in the meeting, so I just wanted to comment. Last Thursday, Clerk Ammons took it upon himself to close his office without authorization from the executive and/or the sheriff. As I understand it, he also told the treasurer that it was okay to close her office as well on Thursday. And then to top it off, both offices, along with the auditor's office, were closed on Friday. If some of the staff were in the office, it was not open to have a deed or a mortgage recorded because the web pages, social media pages said they were closed. So even if you were there for a short period of time, there's no way people knew it was open. Wonder how many marriage licenses were picked up on Friday. I can answer that question, none. Clerk Ammons seems to have an issue with the chain of command and authority? Why would he take it upon himself to close an office without consulting at least the sheriff, who has the only authority and has the information about road conditions and the decision to close the offices? He works with the county executive and they together make that decision. He's an elected official who has the responsibility to serve the public. Unfortunately, the voters put him in charge of the recorder's function as well. He closed that office in essence for 5 days since Monday was a holiday. His actions, without a doubt, caused issues with home buyers and sellers who had closings scheduled that had to be delayed. His actions caused mortgage companies and financial institutions to put off closings for additional periods of time. Those issues are real life and cost our taxpayers real money. He seems to have an issue with the chain of command because he must believe he's above the law. No other offices closed all day Thursday. Brookins closed at 1 o'clock. That came right from the executive and the sheriff in consultation. No other offices were closed on Friday. He willingly gave union employees in his office an additional benefit that was not available to other union employees in the county. I thought his background was in a union position. One would think he would understand that that's something that he did something wrong on many fronts. And finally, why is it that any real estate transaction or any real estate tax information and related TIF information has to be FOIA'd by my constituents who are another public body? My constituents complained to me again last week that in order to get public information that has to do with their TIF district in Mahomet required a FOIA request for the 3rd year in a row. Why can't your staff just actually serve the public when a request is made? Is it too much to ask to do your job? Thank you.
You're muted, Darlene.
Yep, I'm muted, sorry. Okay, we're closing communications. Moving down to approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of January 24th, 2022? Ms. King?
So moved.
Thank you. Ms. Michaels?
Second.
Okay, any discussion or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, will the clerk call the roll?
Stierna.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Wolkin.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Cowart.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Goss.
Yes.
Harper.
Yes.
King.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
McGuire.
Yes.
Michaels.
Yes.
Pasalacqua. Paul.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Summers.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland. Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have the summaries of action taken from February 4th, 2022 at the Highway and Transportation Committee. The summary of action taken at the County Facilities Committee on February 8th, 2022, and the Environment and Land Use Committee summary of action taken February 10th, 2022, received and placed on file. And then moving on, we have summary of action taken February 15th, 2022 at the Committee of the Whole, received and placed on file. And then we have an action item. Would the Justice and Social Service Chair make the committee's recommendation regarding item A? Ms. Taylor.
Yep, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. Do I do the motion?
Yeah, do you want me to read it?
I can, yeah. I move to adopt resolution number 2022-38, directing the county board to modify the animal control ordinance. Do you want me to read the whole ordinance?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Can I get a second?
So moved, Rodriguez.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, any discussion? Ms. Coer, your hand is raised. I think you were trying a second, but.
Yes, I was.
Did you want to say something else about that?
No.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Mitch Theorenot.
Yes.
Williams.
No.
Wolkin.
Yes.
Carter.
Yes.
Coward.
Yes.
Esri.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Goss.
No.
Harper.
No.
King.
Yes.
Lockshin.
Yes.
McGuire.
No.
Michaels.
Yes.
Pasalacqua. Paul.
No.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Storr.
Yes.
Straub.
Yes.
Summers.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Thorsland. Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we're on to new business. Items A and B are from the auditor's office. Do you have an objection to me taking them together? Okay. First, we're going to have adoption of resolution number 2022-39, authorizing payment of claims, and adoption of resolution 22-40, authorizing purchases not following purchasing policy. Can I get a motion? Ms. Furtado.
So moved.
Can I get a second? Mr. Summers?
Second.
Okay, and the auditor is here tonight. I believe he wanted to say something.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, George.
Very good. Okay, as I think I heard at the tail end that was alluded to, the auditor's office has been FOIA'd about expenses charged to the county for the purchase of celebratory meals. I have complied with this request. While doing so, I have found that the county's purchasing policy is neither comprehensive nor explicit, and that it is unevenly applied. I propose to start a discussion with all stakeholders by illustrating the range of county responses to ambiguous policy and to offer what I think to be a reasonable standard until otherwise directed by a board resolution. Two recent meal purchases offer a stark contrast between the permissive and restrictive interpretive responses by differing officers of the county. Case one, the Regional Planning Commission made a $19,911 purchase of 315 food baskets at $63.21 each on November 10th. Because the total price was over the $5,000 threshold for purchase orders, it was reviewed by the Deputy Administrator for Finance for bid compliance. The Deputy Administrator did not balk at the per unit cost and thought that because it was paid for by check that somehow legitimated it. As if the method of payment were the issue rather than the character or the per unit cost of the purchase. You can see that their nearly $20,000 purchase includes recipients that are not strictly county employees. Let me share my screen on that. I have share screen, and I have to choose the screen. One moment. It's not this one.
It's coming, George.
Okay, okay, that's good. Do you see now?
We can just see your menu on your computer.
Oh, the menu, pardon me. The screen share has to change.
You can just move your document over to your menu screen. Move your document that you're trying to show us over to the menu screen.
Okay, I think this should be it. Does this look right?
That's it.
Okay, so I was saying, you can see that the purchases were not strictly for employees. For example, right here, you see an ex officio executive of the RPC. And then if I go a little bit further, you'll see that it also includes present executives as well. You'll also notice that the purchase price initially was $46.71, but that there was a $16.50 shipping price individually multiplied 315 times. And I'll allude to that in just a moment. You can see that the nearly $20,000 purchase includes recipients who are not county employees, and the shipping cost alone was over $5,000. That's because each basket was shipped to individual households rather than to the Brookins. Obviously, RPC was still working from home, even though they obtained the $500 premium pay for supposedly working here on site during COVID. Case 2. The current non-conforming purchases report, NCPR henceforth, includes the Board of Review's $140 purchase of a year's end meal, voucher date January 21st. That purchase was made on the county's credit card, and the county was reimbursed in full. The Board of Review felt that this expense was a legitimate way to foster morale for a team that had worked overtime on work that accumulated for months while the Board of Review was unstaffed, and for which $36,740 in appropriated salary was returned to the county rather than paid to the reviewers. After my remarks, I would like Finance Chair and Labor History Specialist, Dr. Furtado, to say whether the county should profit from the workers' unpaid overtime and whether 25% of the entire salary line should be gifted to the county's reserves. The Regional Planning Commission's case involved food. Its per person price was larger than that of the Board of Review, and yet RPC's purchase did not go on the NCPR, as you can see on the document, nor was it reimbursed by their nor was reimbursement by their executives sought by the county. Obviously, the county does not speak with one voice on meal purchases, and therefore unintended disparate treatment can arise, caused in part by the following 3 factors. 1, the county has 3 policies: purchasing, travel, and RPC that conflict with each other, have no obvious hierarchy between them, and which neither permit nor forbid meals for employee recognition. Number 2, the Regional Planning Commission has its own purchasing policy and exempts itself from the county's policy. And a 3rd reason is the auditor was compelled to report case 2, not because the purchase was out of policy per se, but because the county executive deauthorized the purchase after the fact. That sufficed to make it an inappropriate use of the county credit card, and thus is on the NCPR. The other part of my FOIA asked me, can you see this in yellow and white bars?
Yeah, we can see it.
To give them the entire log of employee recognition meals or holiday meals. And so this is sorted in greatest to smallest order. The Board of Review is not on there because they reimburse the county, so it no longer is an expense. But you can see from here that there are some fairly large expenses. None of these are on the NCPR. And of course, that arises because of the conflicts between different department heads, past practice, and multiple levels of guidance that really the board should come to some conclusion about. So in conclusion, the county must be fair to all its employees and transparent before the public. Therefore, we ought to have a single maximal amount for such purchases. Perhaps $35 per person per year, at least in 2021 dollars, would be flexible enough to include either a relatively generous single celebration in a calendar year or two more economical occasions. I also asked department heads to refer any doubtful purchases to the auditor's office before compelling any reimbursements by the worker to the county. Thank you.
Are you done sharing your screen?
Oh, pardon me. You are sharing screen. Stop share. There we go.
There you go. All right. Any other comments? I see Jim Goss's hand raised.
Yeah, I see that Mr. Burgee is on the call. I'd like to ask him a question if that's possible.
Yep, sure, I'm here.
That'd
okay. Just 2 questions. Why did you believe it was okay to use the credit card twice for personal meals?
Okay, the board of review, I mean, our understanding is all purchases that come out of our budget are to be paid with a credit card. So we use the credit card. We felt, you know, we looked at our budget at the year end. We had almost $40,000 remaining in our budget. And because we had worked through the majority of the lunches during the month of December and had already paid for lunches out of pocket, my colleague said, can't we pay for some of our meals? And we had a Jimmy John's meal that we paid for using the credit card. And then we had a holiday meal the very last day we worked of the month. We made it special, and that's when we ordered Biaggi's. And they were all eaten at our office.
The second question has to do, I noticed the second receipt from Biaggi's was actually for 4 meals. Can you tell me who the fourth person was, since there's only 3 people on the board of review?
There are 3 people on the board of review, and that was our holiday meal. And I told the members that they could order whatever they wanted, keep it within 2,000 calories. And if they wanted to invite their spouse, they could do that. Because this was our last meal of the year. We wanted to do it special and make it nice. And so the only spouse that was available was my spouse.
Okay, that's all I had for you. Mr. Danos, my question for you. Why did you not disclose at the finance agenda meeting that you were the 4th person on the meal? Do you think it was right to withhold that information, that you were a part of the issue with purchases not following policy?
To the contrary, it is highly uncustomary for me to bring non-conforming purchases reports that early, as you know. And the only reason I did it was to forestall an accusation that I thought that you might get to and that I prevented, which was to say that just because John's my spouse, I would somehow conceal it. But I have absolutely not. I'm open and proud about my relationship and the professional independence that I accord his office vis-a-vis mine.
Well, the question is, I asked you directly. I said, to the effect, $140 for 3 people. There must have been alcohol involved because I know what it costs to eat at Biaggi's. At which point you could have shared. At which point you could have shared. I was part of that meal as well. That's why it's $140.
What did I say, Jim?
You didn't share anything.
Exactly. I deferred to the department head. And as a sub-department head, his ultimate authority is the county executive, who answered your question in full. And that was the proper
She didn't share that the meal was for you.
You don't have a problem with me. And I don't know why you slyly tried to bring in alcohol. The receipts in the record clearly shows there was not.
No, my point was we didn't see the receipt. I didn't say.
Can I share you that? I've got the FOIA. Your friends at the Edgar County Watchdogs, I gave them 40 pages. I'll give it to you right now.
George, I'm not raising my voice about it. I'm not the one that FOIA'd you, by the way. I asked the question because I know what it costs to eat at Biaggi's, and $140 seemed extreme for 3 people. At 4 people, I understand. That's why I brought forth exactly what I said in that. You could have diffused this at the finance agenda meeting, and therefore this would not have been a problem.
Mr. Goss, okay, because the board of review worked so hard this year, okay, my colleagues, we all decided, looking at our budget, that we would be generous with ourselves. So if you look at our receipt, we had several appetizers, okay, we had all of our entrees, and we had dessert. So yes, it added up to $140. So I don't know what your pricing is, but I mean, for Biaggi's, I think that's within reason, okay? And I do want to state this. I know the board of review, all of us are feeling a little miffed because we worked very hard in a compressed period of time to keep the tax cycle on schedule. We required no extra training, okay, even though 2 previous board of review members offered to train the new board of review at quite an expense. One Stan Jenkins offered a $90,000 plus contract at a 3-year minimum that, as a taxpayer, I found obscene. But all of us said, no, we did not require the training, and we performed the work admirably. And we would like to request to this county board that the Board of Review present a report to you at next month's county board meeting, because I cannot believe the flack we're getting to keep our morale high. Chris Diana is going through chemotherapy. He didn't have good energy, but he was a trooper and he worked through all those lunches. So did Susan Frobish, so did I. And Jim, if you look at our Jimmy John's receipt, you can see we got a free sandwich, and that is because we had paid out of pocket so many times to Jimmy John's working through lunch that we earned a free one. So I don't know what your beef is.
Well, I'll tell you what my beef is, Mr. Burgee. If you heard what the gentleman said in public comment, it's actually true. This is what started with misuse of a county credit card at one point, which led to fire.
About it. We were above board. We did it in good conscience. I brought my receipts to Lisa Withrow, who is clerk of the Board of Review, to have it paid out of our budget. And she was quite rude to me. And I told her I'm not arguing, because I said, your office went out to a holiday lunch, and she quickly retorted that Paula Bates paid for it out of pocket. And I said, I didn't know that, but we have it in our budget and I want to pay for it out of our budget. And she's like, you have to go talk to Darlene. And you know what? I did go talk to Darlene, and Darlene was polite about it. And she told me, no, that's one thing you can't pay for is food. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, it will go on non-conforming. And I said, okay. And you know what? We paid back what we owed before the credit card bill even came in. So we paid for our food, Mr. Goss.
That's all I've got.
Okay, I think maybe we should move on at this point. Emily, did you have something to say?
Yes, I did. Just want to briefly comment. This is an embarrassing show or demonstration from fellow Democrats. Your paycheck is your reward. I'm having trouble following the justifications here that are being offered. I also want to say it's a little outrageous to rope in other offices and other county board members into this that had nothing to do with the decisions that were made. And then finally, I just want to note that I serve on the Community Action Board of the RPC. I am one of the recipients of the Stonewall purchases. It was a Christmas gift. It was an exorbitant gift of pancake mix, which I am happy to surrender to the auditor's office upon his request. I just want to suggest that perhaps that office ought not critique RPC given recent events. Thank you.
Mr. Esri?
I believe maybe Mr. Williams doesn't have any more questions. I had a question and then I guess a comment. RPC, do they have county credit cards or county checkbook?
It was determined several years ago that the Regional Planning Commission has its own board, and they can set policy for their organization. So even though they're part of the county, they have their own purchasing policy. I believe the same is true of the Mental Health Board, which they're two boards that are actually governing boards of their own organizations and make policy for their own organizations. Their personnel policies, purchasing policies, et cetera, are slightly different than the county's policy.
Okay, but so like credit cards that they have, are they in the county's name or are they in RPC's name? Seeing as
well, they're in the Regional Planning Commission's name. However, so when the auditor, I guess you'd have to ask him this, but he uses their policy to evaluate their purchases and our county policy to evaluate county general fund purchases because that's the policy they're under. The treasurer actually handles all the credit cards, I believe. So they're all running through the county's budget, as you know.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I know we're basically the receiving body for RPC, but other than that, we approve their budgets. But other than that, we don't oversee them at all day to day. So the idea for me of trying to bring RPC in alignment with county they are their own entity. And to me, that is a straw man argument. It doesn't fly with me.
I want to respond
they're
to
their own
Aaron.
entity, and they.
Aaron, I got your point.
Mr. Danos, I am talking. So, yeah, and mental health, ultimately, they're somewhat their own board too. So I don't buy necessarily the idea that, especially RPC, we have to get them all to align. Thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Danos, did you want to respond to that?
Yeah, I did. Okay, so Aaron, you'll notice that RPC was not even placed on the NCPR, the Non-Conforming Purchases Report. So I understand that they exist in some ways independently from the county. Nevertheless, I report on the NCPR about the choices of elected officials, even with the asterisk that says, strictly speaking, they are not bound by county policy. And of course, almost nobody's bound by county policy anymore, because if you look at the organization chart, the people that used to report to the county board and to the county administrator now report to the county executive, who's elected. So my power is a power of making known departures from the county policy, regardless of whether we hold them in some legal way to those policies. I hope that answers your question. One thing about aligning it, this is something else a little bit tangential, but like I said, the RPC does have their own purchasing policy. One good thing that I like from their policy is that their threshold for 3 bids starts at $10,000, whereas the county is still at $5,000. And now there's been changes in the price level, and I think that I would like to imitate what the RPC does for 10,000, for the 3 bid requirement. To Emily's point, I by no means was calling out any county board members. I did not see your name on the list of 315. And when I was asking Stephanie's opinion about what she thinks is fair, that's because I understand and respect all the work and history she knows about the labor movement. And so I would like to still encourage her to comment on the Board of Review situation, especially concerning the $13,000 that you specifically appropriated for the county board in case Liz Bergner-Patton had been stayed over. Of course, you were prepared to give another $13,000 if she were the sole person undertaking these duties.
Mr. Paul.
Thanks. My questions are more just along the lines of for the $20,000, $19,000 for the website format. If there's anybody that can speak to that, I've not seen any information on that in the packet here.
Yeah, I gave some thought to that today, Jacob, and here's what I can tell you. The relationship with Image Graphics started in November 2019. So somewhat understandably, the county clerk felt that it would not make sense to go to bid again because there's some synchronizing between one service and another service on his website. The reason he's on the non-conforming purchases is because he didn't get the 3 bids initially. And if he had, then none of the instances would have been on the non-conforming purchases report. Okay, so I hope that clarifies the question. It's simply because he didn't go to bid the first time, and if you sum up the total amount, it actually would have required a request for proposal.
Ms. Michaels.
Yes, ma'am. My question's about the emergency purchase for the American Rescue Plan Act. And I see that the date on those are December 28th, and they're pretty good dollar amounts, 27 and 17,000. I just wondered why that would be an emergency purchase as opposed to something that was planned, since those funds were something that came in later in the year.
I'm trying to make this my non-conforming purchases clockwise. Let me think about that for a moment. And look for that. I think that the only reason it's a technicality. The ARPA money was available when it was available, and so this was there was just a timing issue in terms of when they could do the purchase and when they could have it reported for the revenue year.
If I can follow up, ma'am.
Sure.
So basically this might've been budgeted somewhere else and then the ARPA money came in. So therefore they used that and that's why it's on the,
that's
am I missing it?
I don't even have it in front of me. I'm trying to get in front of me.
Sorry.
That's how I remember it. It was not, there was no issue with the character of the expense. There was simply a timing issue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm thinking that, Ms. Michaels, I'm not sure, I'm not looking at the exact thing in front of me either, but I'm thinking that was for the multi-factor, the two-factor authentication for our cybersecurity that we needed to do right away.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Furtado?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm prepared to speak on behalf of the history of the labor movement at this time, but I will say, I want to keep these issues separately. I will say that the expectation, this is not related to the purchases following purchasing order, but since it came up, the expectation of the board when we take a vote is that the vote is carried out. The board took a vote that the person who is the chair of the Board of Review would receive a raise for doing work in excess of the work that they were typically asked to perform in a given year. And my understanding is that did not carry out, that there was a change in who that person was, but the intention of the board, the vote of the board was very clear. And the fact that a vote of the board was not carried out is concerning. That said, that has nothing to do with the credit card purchase. The credit, I think that we need to have clear, what this indicates to me is that this county lacks a clear onboarding training of like a basic level that is problematic. If somebody touches a credit card in this county, they should not have to go through 3 or 4 conversations to understand the policies that are associated with proper use of that credit card. And I mean, you shouldn't use a card without, and people have mentioned, we've seen this in this county. We saw this in Unit 4 schools, right? Like, if we're a government agency and people have the ability to make expenditures, there should be initial and consistent training on how to use these cards. And it seems to me like that's not happening. And that's something that we need to take care of. And we need that going forward.
I better, in my remarks, maybe they were too extensive to retain in memory. It was a sequence of a lot of different issues. I'll put it in a memo in the next board meeting. I said that there was no clear policy regarding this. There were many purchases of far greater dollar amounts, and we had no problem with it. No one flagged it, from whether you're talking about the budget director or me. So I'm saying the only reason this was an inappropriate use of a credit card is because Darlene forbade it after the fact, and she is the department head. But if you looked on there also, you saw that the sheriff had and I'm not picking on him at all, I think it's a perfectly fine purchase. They had they used a credit card for a holiday meal, and it was economical. I think it was about $14 per head. But how else do you expect them to pay for it? I mean, to say credit card and have some very simplistic credit card bad, check good, it doesn't give us any clarity on this. Either the expense is okay or it's not. But if you go to a restaurant and you use a credit card, nobody's going to go to El Toro and say, oh, send me an invoice. And then the auditor's office will run a check. I could do that for RPC and the gift baskets because of the character of it being shipped the way it was in a customized and individual way, regardless of how expensive it was. My point is there is no clear guidance on meals. I defy you to find it. Don't say that somebody was not onboarded about a policy that doesn't exist. I want clarification from the board on the policy. That's all. In general, I put this on the non-conforming purchases report simply because after the fact, it was not authorized by the ultimate department head.
Mr. Williams.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
Can I respond? Let me be clear. I'm not at all trying to articulate that I think that there is or is not a clear-cut policy. What I'm saying is that people should not have to guess whether or not something is okay. There needs to be an onboarding, like this is not a controversial statement. There needs to be an onboarding process. If you touch, one of the differences between a credit card and a check is that an individual doesn't have a power to issue a check because we print checks. So there's some sort of checks and balance in that process. An individual that holds a credit card has more autonomy. There needs to be a set of rules that govern that purchase. And if they're not, then that needs to be addressed, because the difference between a check is that somebody has to actually issue the check, and that isn't a check and balance, if you will. That a credit card implicitly, the check and balance comes after it's expended, right?
Yeah, well, ultimately we're in harmony. There should be clear guidance. The guidance has to exist first, and then we should promulgate it with onboarding.
Mr. Williams.
Executive Kleppel, Auditor Danos has said multiple times that you invalidated this purchase after the fact. Why do you think that this purchase is not following the purchase policy, or why did you invalidate this purchase after the fact, or has George Danos mischaracterized what you did?
Well, I spoke with the Board of Review, and my understanding and how I interpret that for my department is that we're not supposed to be buying meals for our own staff with county money. And so if people in my department, as he mentioned, the assessor's office had a holiday party, and the director of that department purchased the meal. I've had parties for my hallway down administration and purchased the meal. So that's how my department has always done it.
So in your answer just now, you seem to be referring to a policy. Is there a policy regarding food that you know of?
There is a policy that says that you should not purchase food in the county if you're an employee of the county.
And where is this policy?
It's in the purchasing policy. It's in the travel policy.
Okay. All right. Can you quote from it?
Well, I don't have it in front of me. It's posted on the county's website, and it's, everyone looks in our policies, that's where they are.
Okay. I have a couple questions for Mr. Berge. Mr. Berge, it's my understanding that the Board of Review does not have a credit card. How are you able to make this purchase with a credit card?
Because we get the credit card, which we share from Paula Bates's office.
And when you use the credit card from the assessor's office, do you usually tell her what it's going to be used for, or do you just take it willy-nilly and do what you need to do with it?
No, we tell her what it's going to be used for.
And in this case, did you do that?
We did. Chris Diana had to get the credit card to get a copy of keys made for himself, which if you look on the non-conforming purchases is also on there because he wasn't instructed.
Mr. Burge, I'm referring to the meal purchases.
That's right. And so then we used a credit card because we had already decided that we were going to order lunches, and we have the credit card number, and that's what we use to order the lunches.
So you're saying that member Diana talked to the assessor about this beforehand?
He didn't talk to her about the meals, but he got the credit card, and when he had the credit card, we took the number for our future use.
Like you wrote it down on a piece of paper?
Copied it, yes.
Well, I gotta say, I'm very troubled by that practice. It doesn't seem to be a very secure use of the credit card. And if you copy the number, then there's really no need to run it by the assessor who the card's name is in. I mean, I can't believe you don't see a problem with that.
Well, we didn't tell the assessor, but we have a budget that what we understood, like Stephanie says, onboarding, we didn't get any onboarding. I mean, we were all came in at different times. We were deluged with a backlog of work. We had to actually ask to be sworn in, each one of us. So, I mean, it was really an odd onboarding, if you want to say.
Mr. Bergie, how many complaints did you have this year? And I won't hold you to a number, so give or take 10%. How many assessment complaints did you have this year?
We had like 1,000, I think, and 51.
1,051 complaints?
Yeah, so that was about 400 fewer than last year, but we had almost twice as many hearings.
Okay, and you're chair of the Board of Review, is that right?
That's correct.
And how did you become chair of the Board of Review?
By election.
And however, that election was contested, wasn't it?
What do you mean it was contested?
I mean, there was another person who wanted to be Board of Review chair, isn't that right?
Who are you referring to? We have three people.
There's three people.
There are three people, and one of the three people was Debbie Estes, who is no longer on the Board of Review. She resigned because she felt it was too much work.
I think we're getting kind of off topic here.
I think we're getting off topic.
No. I'm bringing this back in. So the reason I bring this up is John, it seems to me that you volunteered to be chair of the Board of Review, which means that you're a department head. And I actually have some experience with being chair of the Board of Review, except in my case, I didn't ask to be chair of the Board of Review. My colleagues blindsided me with it. And that was reported extensively in the News Gazette at the time. My colleagues blindsided me with it, but I took it in stride. And as a department head, I took it upon myself to learn what the rules are regarding purchases, credit card purchases, travel policies, so on and so on. So I really, I don't understand how this could happen. It just doesn't make sense to me how this could happen. And then,
Wayne.
I'm still speaking.
Okay.
And you know, when I was on the Board of Review, we had upwards of 2,400 complaints every year. 1,000 complaints? I understand it was a compressed timeline, but 1,000 complaints seems like nothing to me.
Okay, Wayne. My understanding is you resigned from the Board of Review, and why was?
I did not resign from the Board of Review. Again, that was extensively
we're getting
reported.
we're getting off topic here. So, or do we have a question related to the budget amendments? Okay.
I do. George, I see that this reimbursement was made January 10th, and we had a county board meeting on January, I believe it was January 25th. Why are we just learning about this I'm sorry, January 20th. Why are we just learning about this right now?
That's a lie. Jim Goss knew about it 2 weeks ago because I hastened to bring it.
No, I'm looking at the purchases, not following purchasing policy. It says cardholder reimburse the county on 1/10/22.
Okay, can I ask you something?
I reimbursed the county as soon as Darlene told me we were not allowed to buy food. And that was before the credit card bill even came in.
That's not in dispute, but what I'm saying is if the reimbursement happened January 10th, we had a county board meeting on January 20th. Why are we just finding out about this on February 24th?
I'll take care of this. Wayne, you're just trying to get quotables in the media, and I find it
George, you're not doing your job.
Oh, this is another quotable. Why don't you be quiet? I'm talking now. Seriously, mute Wayne. I put this on my non-conforming purchases report early in order to be transparent. And if you look at the VR dates, there is no date on here that's any later. Everything's earlier. There is no question that there is a 1 month, you got to know this, AP process where we get documents. The credit card did not even come in until the 19th. And my independent senior accountant has to do her job. You cannot tell her how to do her job. I stay away from her to give her full independence and place things on here. I hope you know that. So she was not able to put this on the January non-conforming purchases report. This is clearly timely.
Okay, Mr. McGuire, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Actually, a comment about this. Obviously, I do purchasing on the university, and there are credit card rules for a reason, as Stephanie stated, the autonomy issue is always a problem, and spending is not like necessarily controlled well, but that's why there's a rule about using credit card for food, especially. But I'm amazed that an auditor and someone from the review board would write down a credit card number, not tell the person that is responsible for the credit card that they're making the expenditure. That is the best reason to have these rules, and to use the excuse it's a holiday party or something else. That doesn't stop the fact that you failed to follow the rule. You should be held accountable for it. Both of you should be. That one person was the spouse of another to help cover it up. That is
ridiculous.
That is
point of order, Mr. Danos. This isn't a conversation. We go by Robert's rules.
Oh, you're done. Thank you.
But that's just unbelievable that we can have a county office that does this.
Okay,
anyway,
Mr. Paul.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Paul, I see your hand raised again. Are you still raising it? Want to say something else? Mr. Paul, did you have something else?
No, sorry.
Okay. That's okay. Ms. Rodriguez?
First, a comment, then a question. The first is that county board members are simply doing their job here. They're doing their due diligence. It does not make sense to call them out for, say, for example, stealing sound bites, etc. But my question really is the tip. 321. Can anybody explain this? Commiserate to the amount that was spent on the bill?
That is because it was carry out. I didn't even know what to tip.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And then there's another tip that we tipped to Jimmy John's, but that was written separately.
Okay, Mr. Williams, you have one more thing?
Yeah, another thing I don't understand is why Mr. Burgee felt the need to speak to an employee of the assessor's office and how mean this person was to him. I can tell you that I have worked with.
Point of order, you have to stop interrupting. You have to stop, please, but like control yourself.
I have worked with this person since I was on the board of review in 2010 and have known this person to only be respectful, yet firm, but respectful, nice. And I'm just very surprised that you would try to deflect on her your bad behavior.
My bad behavior.
That's kind of just a comment. We're not going any further with that. Okay. Any other questions? Are we ready to vote? Would the clerk call the roll, please?
And it's clear or not.
We're voting in.
Sorry, yes. Can you remind me what we're voting on?
Yeah, we're voting on the adoption of the resolution authorizing payment of claims and the resolution authorizing purchases not following purchasing policy.
Williams?
Reluctantly, yes.
Wolken?
Yes.
Carter?
Yes.
Cowart?
Yes.
Esri?
No.
Furtado?
Oh, yes.
Goss?
No.
Harper?
No.
King?
Yes.
Lockshin?
Yes.
McGuire?
No.
Michaels?
Yes.
Pasalacqua? Paul?
No.
Rodriguez?
Reluctantly, yes.
Storr?
Yes.
Straub?
Yes.
Summers?
Yes, we pay our bills.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thorsland? Patterson?
Yes.
Motion carries. Now we're on to other business, the American Rescue Plan Act. Can I get a motion for adoption of resolution number 2022-41, authorizing the intergovernmental agreements with the Urbana and Champaign Sanitary District, the Village of Mahomet, and the Sangamon Valley Public Water District for assistance with residential water, wastewater account balances? Ms. Straub.
So moved.
Thank you. Ms. Lokshin.
I will second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing none, would the clerk call? Oh, Mr. Williams raised his hand.
Yes, I'm sorry. And I want to thank Executive Kleppel for taking this initiative, specifically by calling the other governmental agencies. I like I said before, I think that shows true leadership, and I'm very happy that we're in a place to help people. I think that as elected officials, that is what we're here to do, to help people. And Executive Kleppel allowed us today to help more people because of her leadership. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Thank you. Will the clerk call the roll?
Benish Thirna,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vulcan,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalacqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
I'm pleased to vote yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland, Patterson,
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, can the executive get a motion for adoption of resolution number 2022-42, authorizing the award of contract to NICE Systems Incorporated for a digital evidence management system pursuant to RFP 2021-00011. Ms. Fenich Thernot.
So motion.
Thank you. Mr. Williams.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on this item. Okay, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Benish Thirna,
Yes.
Williams,
Yes.
Vulcan,
Yes.
Carter,
Yes.
Cowart,
Yes.
Esri,
Yes.
Furtado,
Yes.
Goss,
Yes.
Harper. Yes.
King,
Yes.
Lokshin,
Yes.
McGuire,
Yes.
Michaels,
Yes.
Pasalacqua, Paul,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Storr,
Yes.
Straub,
Yes.
Summers,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thorsland, Patterson.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. And just to clarify with the board, the memo recommending this was also to take the first 2 years, the purchase and the first 2 years from the ARPA funds. I just wanted to be sure everybody was clear on that. Okay. Next is discussion information items only. We have a guest tonight. Brad Yukin is here to share the update from the Broadband Task Force. Mr. Yukin, you can share your screen.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to say thanks for letting me join you tonight. And I appreciate the opportunity to address the county board. As Ms. Kleppel said, my name is Brad Yukin, and I'm the chair of the Champaign County Broadband Task Force. And I was elected back at our first meeting by my fellow task force members. So tonight, I just want to go over a few things and again, give you a little bit of an update of where we stand on our work. So just from where we start with, the county has engaged, of course, with Finley Engineering to work as our consultant on this project. They're headquartered in Missouri, but they have a branch office in Springfield. And that's really the office that we work with and where the individual that is the lead on this project is working out of. The contract was signed on September 28th, 2021, and the price quoted on the agreement was $85,500. The goal was to finish their work, or the contract indicated that they would finish their work by March 16th, 2022, which is only a few weeks away here. So let's talk a little bit about the process for developing a final report. So Finley started off with some community surveys, and these surveys were sent to both residents and businesses throughout the county. Distribution of the surveys were through a wide variety of methods. One was the survey was placed on the county's website, and then members of the task force, and I believe each of you had the survey sent to you, and all of us were encouraged to share those surveys with our sort of our network that we are within. So along with the surveys, there were speed tests, and really those speed tests were, as it says, speed tests for how fast your internet service is for where you were at, where you were doing that test from, whether that was your business or your home. Finley also did a number of stakeholder interviews. I think they ended up with about 12 to 20 individual stakeholder interviews. And those stakeholders range from libraries to the medical field. School districts were interviewed, real estate agents, farmers, county board members, rural businesses, and mayors. So a real cross-section of individuals were interviewed about broadband and the needs for service today and moving forward. They also talked with the current providers and had discussions with them, really gaining insights or trying to gain insights of where some of those providers' current service areas are. And then the challenging part was trying to identify potentially some of those providers' future expansion. Oftentimes that type of information, though, is really held pretty close to the vest. And so that's a kind of a difficult thing to accomplish. They also used, of course, their engineering expertise. They have done numerous ones of these and worked for many communities and numerous counties as well. And then they also got input from us as a task force as well on various points that they had questions on or needed clarification. I know our committee provided them a number of individuals perhaps to reach out to for further information. And I know the GIS department was very helpful with some mapping of some points as well. So their goal is to produce a final report. And so what is a final report? What would it include? Well, really, it's gonna look at that high level design of a broadband network that is gonna provide really that affordable and quality access to broadband throughout Champaign County. And I think those two are equally important as we as a task force talked about the affordability part of it, as well as the quality. And by quality, it could mean access, it could be reliability. So both of those are critical. Also, then I think where the county board then looks at or will look at in the future, and I'll get to that in a second, is really those cost estimates for the network. And I think what Finley is going to produce, and I've not seen the final report, and again, I'll touch on that in a second, or I haven't even seen a draft, is they're really gonna, what I believe is come up with a county-wide design of how to address that. Again, keeping affordability and access in mind. And then within that county-wide design, I believe they're going to then kind of break it into phases. How many phases, I don't know, or really areas that will need to be prioritized that the county can take a look at. So here is a proposed timeline. And again, I think the key word on this slide is proposed. This has been talked about within our task force a little bit. We have spoke with our consultant Finley Engineering about this as well. So as I said very early on, the draft report and their work is kind of done to be done by March 16th. So Finley, I believe, is on track to hit that February 16th, to have us a draft report presented to the task force here in the month of March, in the first couple of weeks of March. It's our goal then as a task force to have a recommendation from our task force to the county board for approval of the report in April. And in that time frame of when it's presented to us and when we make that recommendation to the county board, there'll be some tweaks done to it, some clarification of what is being said. We may have suggestions for additions or revisions, or just kind of getting clarity on some of the information that's presented. But again, our goal today, without even having received the draft report, would be to hopefully get that to you to the full county board for consideration in April. There'll then be a public meeting allowing for citizen input. And then we would hope that the county board would provide us some input and then be able to take final action on the report in May. And then again, a goal would be to start that implementation of those recommendations beginning in June. We are excited, our task force is, of where this takes us, and looking forward to actually seeing the draft report, and think that there's going to be some great opportunities to take this county forward as it specifically pertains to broadband. So when we talk then about, if we take that next step or that next leap and say that we have a report and the county, whether that be the task force or the county board takes a look at it, again, which both of us will, what implementation may include? And again, the key word on this slide is may. Without looking and out actually having a draft report, it's difficult for me to say exactly what implementation will look like. But I think the key thing that our task force, and I believe the county board, has talked about on numerous occasions, is the opportunity to identify additional grant dollars from various sources. I tell a lot of people that I talk to about broadband is that we will never see in our lifetime the amount of money that the state and federal government is putting towards broadband. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for Champaign County and many, many groups and organizations across this country to enhance and make broadband more equitable across in the entire country, including Champaign County. An example of that I've got listed there is that Connect Illinois Round 3. So again, obviously this is through the state of Illinois. It was announced there in late January, Round 3 was, and they've got approximately $300 million available that entities can apply for to get these funds. They're approved by the Illinois Office of Broadband on a rolling basis. So in other words, there's no necessarily deadline for you to apply, but once the 300 million's gone, Round 3 is over. So that's the challenge moving forward. And that's just an example. There are other federal dollars out there. There's other state dollars out there that can be used for broadband and enhancing service and that affordability component. I think when we talk implementation, I think even there's a number of options of how would that look, who would implement it. Obviously, the county has hired a couple individuals who can help with grant writing. They may be a resource for us. Or we may look back at Finley, who provides us the consultant report, and ask them to help us through the next steps, obviously through an additional agreement. And they can do that through a piecemeal approach. And by that, I mean, you could potentially go to them and say, we just want you to help with grant writing. Not that the grant writers for the county don't know what they're doing, but Finley is maybe a little more specialized in broadband and has that expertise a little bit more. Or it could be a turnkey approach as well, of everything from grant writing to helping with easements as we get into installation, things like that. Or, of course, there's an opportunity to identify another partner to help with implementing implementing those recommendations. By no means does it have to be Finley. There are other companies that out there that could help us with this project as well. So implementation could take a kind of a number of directions. It kind of depends on, again, back to what the report says, which we hope to be getting here later this month. So, or next month, I should say. At this point, that's kind of what we've been doing. I'm open to questions. If there are any questions, I'm more than willing to address those tonight.
Okay, any questions for Brad? Anything else you want to add, Samantha? I know you're on that committee.
Yes, ma'am. So I just wanted to add that I totally agree with Mr. Brad Eucken. The firm has been very transparent as far as me never knowing anything about this process. They have been very informative in taking questions and also explaining the process with us. So I would definitely recommend them working with the county in search of grants that may be available and so that we can finish the project. Thank you.
Okay.
And Darlene,
yeah,
Samantha brought up a good thing, and I apologize to Samantha. I did not say this. Samantha serves as the co-chair or the vice chair of the committee. And so, and again, to add to the comment about Finley, they have been very transparent and accessible. And I think that's key as well, is their accessibility to answer our questions and address different concerns that we have thus far through the process.
Okay, Ms. Furtado, do you have a question?
Yeah, or just a comment more. I just wanted to say, you know, thanks to Brad and thanks to Samantha and to everybody else who's been serving on this committee. I think that this is an important step forward. And just in general, I feel like today was a good step forward for the ARPA funds. We allocated $177,000 for people to keep for sewer bills of people who could not pay them. We moved an important county side project forward that probably would not have been possible without the ARPA money for something that's been a long time need for the state's attorney's office. And we have progress on this initiative. I think that I have two suggestions. I think that I know I've spoken with Darlene a little bit about this, but I do think we need to make the assessment soon, whether we think that we have the capacity with the 2 grant writers that we have brought on board to go after some of this additional money, or if we want to further engage the services of this company, because what we don't want to have is a gap of while we're waiting, you know, for the paperwork, if we decide to continue to engage the services with this company. I usually have a hesitancy about contracting out grant writing services, but in this case where they're so familiar, I mean, they're the most familiar with the data, it might make a lot of sense, and are really familiar with our county. And I think that would be money well spent, because as we know, it's going to cost a lot more to build this out than even if we used all of our ARPA money, which we obviously aren't. Would cost more than all of our ARPA money combined. And then the only other suggestion I had is I do think a public meeting is a good idea, just to kind of brag on the work that, you know, the committee has done, and to share it with the public and to get feedback. And that also helps position you in a better way as you go forward for grants. All of that kind of feedback is great. And the survey work they did, all of that's super important. And my one suggestion is maybe we could just put that on one of the study sessions so that we don't have to like reinvent the wheel and, you know, come up with another schedule. But that seems like the best idea for maybe timing of that. But thank you to the committee for the work that you've done. And it's exciting to see this project getting off the ground.
And Stephanie, I will add and build on your very last comment there. Darlene and I have talked a little bit about the public meeting aspect, and that was an option that we discussed, was not trying to create a special night where people would come in, or the county board for that matter, but piggybacking it on an existing opportunity. So we have discussed that, Ms. Kleppel and I have. So.
Okay, thank you, Brad, for coming this evening. Kathy Larson is also here tonight. If Kathy, do you want to talk a little bit about your monthly report?
Sure. Yes, so the first quarterly report was submitted January 31st, and a copy of that exported version of the report is in the packet. And the primary categories that were reported on were the administration and the mental health services that are going through subrecipients. So we did have to submit information about the subrecipients in that report. I want to mention that any of the numbers reported as of December 31st reflect what officially was paid out and reported on, for example, through the county financial statements. So for example, for administration, we were probably closer to 38,000 that was expended, but because of the billing period and the cycle that needs to go through, we were just reporting what's officially on the county financial statements for Department of Treasury records. And then with mental health services, I worked with Lynn Canfield so that she was working with the subrecipients to report how much they had actually expended. So I just want to mention that about the reporting. Obviously, as we go forward with reporting, we'll keep adding these different projects that are coming through and that we'll be expending on and having contracts that are committed to. Current projects that we're working with See You at Home on the assistance for the winter shelter services that was approved, back in December. We'll be working now on the past sewer water bills agreements that you approved tonight. And then still working with the immigrant service organizations and developing a contract for review for March. And of course, several county department purchases are in process and discussions and the purchase orders and the payments of those expenses as well. We're having discussions regarding housing assistance and mortgage assistance to include RPC and the Housing Authority. And of course, the water projects in the rural areas are under discussion and through ELUC and continue to see submissions there. And then also working with the Mahama Aquifer mapping once the information is ready for that contract to move forward. And then of course, the land bank assistance as well. Those are some of the major highlights that we're working on currently.
Are there questions for Kathy? Any other more detail, Ms. Furtado?
Just one question, and Kathy, I already spoke with Darlene about this. I appreciate this report, and I get that this is sort of like what was generated from the federal website. It is a little bit redundant in terms of the formatting, and a little bit like you kind of have to look at a few pages. So one of my suggestions is, I totally get that this is like the first iteration of this, and that it's clearly generated from like a report system, but maybe I think for purposes of the board, consolidating this into like more of a spreadsheet type of thing. I mean, I think the detail information is good, but maybe, I don't know. There's a lot of, it involved a lot of flipping. So I think, and we don't need the DUNS number every time and, like all that kind of stuff. Like, I think it's more what we want is how much did we put towards it? How much has been spent? What's it for? Right. In a more maybe accessible format than this. So this is totally fine for now, but I think going forward, because as this grows, I could envision this being like 200 pages in this format, right? So I know you got a lot on your plate, but I'd like to add that to your plate.
Okay, I will.
Okay. Thanks, Kathy. And as she mentioned, the water projects are coming in. We've had a couple of other requests. They're going to the ELUC committee for their recommendation and then can be approved that way. Mr. Summers?
I just wanted to thank Ms. Larson for the update and also note that Clerk Ammons has had his hand raised for a while. So if we have time.
Well, Clerk Ammons is not on the board, so there's not a place for him to speak unless the board would like to hear from him for some reason.
I would.
Well, I was spoken of directly, mentioned and attacked publicly. I thought I would have an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, that's not your place, Aaron. Mr. McGuire?
I did have some questions from Clerk Ammons.
Okay, then that's great. You can have a chance. Go for it.
Great. Thank you. Aaron, I heard you on the radio talking about the elections. And a few questions came to mind. probably will have more over time, but the interesting ones were talking about the list for people automatically requesting mail-in ballots. First, what happens when a bunch of students leave and then they've requested mail-in ballots? How do you, because you talked about clearing out the list, how do you know that they're still living in the same place to receive that mail-in ballot? Do you want to take them one at a time, or do you want to try to?
I would, if you could make it a straightforward question so I know exactly what you're asking, that would be helpful.
So students ask through the next couple months about being put on the mail-in ballot, automatic mail-in ballot list. What happens if they move? How do you determine where to send the mail-in ballot to, or should they actually receive a mail-in ballot if they move to Kentucky or something like that? Do you clear those lists after the?
So, well, thank you for the question, Jim. The process of removing any voter is the same no matter who the voter is. If a student or any other voter participates in an election in Champaign County and they sign up to be on the list, the permanent list to receive vote by mail, then we will mail to them for any election that they qualified to vote in. And if that ballot is returned to us undeliverable, then we will go through the process of removing those voters. Now, some of those people we may catch through other processes of them sharing that information themselves to make sure that we don't have to send to them. They could let us know that they don't want to be on the list anymore, they're moving. But there's a couple of different ways in which we maintain our list. So that's something that I'm happy to share with you all. And again, I'm very open. You can come and ask these questions while I'm in the office and talk to the staff there and get answers to these questions 8:30 to 4:30, 8 a.m. to 4:30, Monday through Friday.
Well, I like asking the questions so the public can hear the responses, so they better understand the process. And I don't understand the part about when people are removed from that list. And you say that if it's mailed somewhere, that somehow it automatically be returned. I don't understand if they just have a mailing address and they've requested a ballot be sent to an address. What stops it from being delivered unsecurely to that address?
What do you mean by delivered unsecurely?
Well, you're saying that you're expecting that voter to be there that requested that mail-in ballot, and then you're automatically sending them a ballot. There's nothing to stop anybody from getting the ballot out of the mailbox if the voter is no longer living in that address. There's nothing that stops it.
Okay, I think I understand the question a little bit better.
Good.
But the reason why the letter would come back is because it's specifically sent to a particular individual, and it is a violation of the law, a federal violation of law, for someone to open up somebody else's mail, especially if they try to use it in some fraudulent way. But the mail process is that it's returned to us undeliverable, and we start the process of maintaining that person, whether it's going to be on an inactive list or, suspended, or they've moved to another county. So we don't deliver things unsecurely. I don't quite understand what that means, but I understand your point.
And then the next one is.
I'm sorry, I have a point of order. I don't
understand. I'd like to finish my questions. I'd like to finish my questions before I go.
Hold it.
I just have one more question, if you'd allow me to finish my statement. Why do you think you run this meeting? Aaron, the last question I have is, how do you know which party ballot to mail to that address?
Well, so
because
when we send out the application,
could change that decision.
Well, Jim,
I'm going to ask you.
Excuse me.
Point of order. This is off topic. This is completely out of order.
Yes.
There's not an agenda item.
We are down to other business.
Do we not like the questions? Just let Aaron answer the questions.
We're just this is information only item. Go ahead and ask your question, Jim.
No.
So how do you decide which ballot to mail if the person hasn't requested it directly? Is it always going to be the same ballot? It's always going to be a Democrat or Republican ballot during the primary?
So, whenever you get finished with your question, I'll go ahead and answer you.
Okay, thank you. I'm done. Go ahead.
When a person requests a ballot, they go through the process of requesting a vote by mail ballot, and they want to be on the permanent list. Then that application is going to ask them if they want a Democratic or Republican ballot during the primary. And then we would accommodate them based upon what they say in the application. So that's the way that process works. Now, the reason why I wanted to have an opportunity to speak this evening is because, as we can see from this line of questioning, there's a desire to put out misinformation about what's happening in my office. And there was some pretty significant lies that were told today that I want to make sure.
This is not the place, Aaron.
No, see, now you're not going to cut me off now.
I have the floor. We're talking about voting. Aaron, we're talking about voting.
No.
That was the question.
Hi, I'm the next person in line.
Yeah.
All right.
And Emily, it's your turn.
I just first wanted to say I am a I've directly observed students struggling with this very question. It is something that fills them with great anxiety. They are, whenever they call in the clerk's office, they walk away with certainty and clarity. I can tell you that they know that they cast one ballot. They understand the consequences of doing otherwise. And finally, this is a county board member saying this. I would simply like to give the floor to Mr. Ammons to respond to whatever he'd like to do.
Thank you very much, Rodriguez.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Thank you. So I just want to clarify for the record that Mr. Goss, once again, has not called me to ask me any questions, to get any answers so that he could speak factually as an elected official to the public. He has made false assertions and innuendos about my office again. So first of all, we were open Friday, all right? We served 30 walk-ins. 3 people got marriage licenses done. And I personally processed the 3 or 4 people who came into the recorder's office. So it would be in everyone's best interest if you, Mr. Goss, or any other member of the board would like to know something about what's happening in my office. The number is 384-3720. I say again, 384-3720. I'm located at 1776 East Washington Street in the Brookings Administration Building. And if you don't find me in the recorder's office, you'll find me in the clerk's office. You can get my cell phone number if you want to. You can have my email address if you want it. I am available to you to answer your questions so that you don't make mockery of yourselves or of this process by lying to the public because you haven't done your due diligence, when it's a simple process of calling me and I will happily answer your questions. So,
okay, thank you, Aaron.
I would just like to finish up my comments just real quick. I just want to simply point out that student voters on our campus are the primary targets of voter suppression, and it is critical that they get the correct information. So I just want to underline what Clerk Ammons said, and please do call into the clerk's office if you have any questions.
And I apologize. Thank you. There's a FOIA statement. You made a statement about a FOIA.
Aaron, you do not have the floor.
I just want to finish. I'm sorry.
Aaron, you do not have the floor.
I'm sorry.
I have the floor and I'd like to let him finish.
Okay, we're not going to keep on going about, it's starting to get into name calling and other things.
So. No.
You can't be cutting him off. If everybody else get a chance to speak, let him allow to clear his name. That is only right.
You very much.
You shouldn't cut him off.
Finish saying what you need to say.
Yes, please, I'm trying. Member Goss also said that some of his constituents or somebody was trying to FOIA my office and they couldn't get information. The information that he's speaking of was a FOIA that should have been sent or was sent to the treasurer's office. It has nothing to do with my office. So again, rather than follow the haste that I know it's an urge that you can't resist to try to throw me under the bus,
Aaron,
it's so much easier for you to just give me a call, 384-3720. Y'all have a great evening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
I'd just like to know more about the voter suppression on campus. If there's evidence of that, I think we should try to accomplish some way of making sure that's not happening. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Lakshan, do you have something?
No, I just wanted to say it sounds like maybe this is something we should put on the agenda for a future meeting. If there's discussion to be had about it. Thank you all.
Sure, thank you. This was information only time. Okay. So that is it, I think, for our business this evening. And with that, I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.